Frank Sinatra, who had blue eyes and a voice as smooth as silk, was the biggest star of his time. He was more than just a singer, he was also a man of power, mystery, and charm. Sinatra did more than just make music. From smoky Las Vegas clubs, he made history. He was always at the swankiest Hollywood parties with the biggest stars of the 1960s, but when the curtain went down on Old Blue Eyes in 1998, something wasn't quite right. Add up, even after decades of late-night laughs and red carpet moments, many of his closest celebrity friends were mysteriously not at his funeral. There were no red carpets or flashbulbs. There was only silence. What happened, and who wasn't at the funeral? There were 6 famous actors who weren't in the room when Sinatra took his last bow. They are Marlon Brando, Jack Nicholson, Tony Danza, and Tom Selleck. All stood in a line to say goodbye to 6 actors who were close to Frank Sinatra did not show up to his funeral, which makes us wonder. Do they not like the blue-eyed crooner, or did their absence have something more personal to do with it? It was exciting to see that on a wild night in Los Angeles, Marlon Brando stopped his motorcycle at a rest stop and he was suddenly attacked by 3 men with guns. They pushed him into the back seat of a car and threatened to kill or castrate him if he didn't get out. They quickly cuffed him and then let him go without hurting him. According to Carlo Fiore, Brando's close friend and cast member, was sure Sinatra was behind as a scare tactic. The tension between these 2 Hollywood heavyweights wasn't just for the tabloids, it was real. Tense and could have become dangerous, but to fully understand where it all came from to get started, let's go back to 1955, when Frank Sinatra, one of the best singers of all time, and Marlon Brando was one of the best actors in movie history, starred together in a musical comedy that would change their relationship forever. The movie in question was Guys and Dolls. Would be a historic pairing that would be full of charm and sex. Classic movies, but behind the scenes it wasn't so much a team effort as it was a Guys and Dolls takes place in the busy streets of New York City in the 1950s. Brings together the stories of 2 very different gamblers. Nathan Detroit, played by Frank Sinatra, is a local craps game organizer who needs a place to hold the game. To get his next big score with his loyal friends Nicely Johnson, Slick K played Benny Southstreet, and Johnny Silver. Nathan, played Benny Southstreet, tries to get the money while also dealing with problems in his 14-year engagement to the lively Adelaide, played by Vivian Blaine, and avoiding the eye of Captain Brannigan, played by Robert Keith. To get cash quickly, Nathan makes a bold bet with the famous gambler Sky Masterson, who was played by Marlon Brando. Bets that Sky can't get any random woman to fly with him to Havana for dinner. Nathan chooses Sarah Brown. Gene Simmons plays a religious missionary who preaches against gambling as a sin and a temptation. Obviously, sparks fly. There is chaos, and between the dances and dice games, both men are being forced to face what's important in life. But while the movie looked like a fun musical, on set, there was no harmony at all. Sinatra and Brando were oil and water from the start. The fight wasn't just about personalities, it had to do with Sinatra worked hard to get the part of Sky Masterson in the movie. He should have had a part that let him show off his cool personality and golden pipes. Instead, Brando got the part, even though he wasn't the best actor. Actor had no musical experience at all. Sinatra wasn't happy, and in response, he started calling Brando by a mean nickname, Mumbles, which made fun of Brando's quietness. Method acting and what some people thought was a problem with his voice. Brando, never one to give up, found his own ways to fight back, most famously during There is a scene early in the movie where Nathan Detroit eats a slice of while talking to Sky Masterson about cheesecake. What should have been a simple scene turned into a war. Brando, because they knew Sinatra hated cheesecake, they messed up take after take on purpose. Sinatra had to eat slice after slice, and by the end of the day, he was sick. Films had to stop because he was sick to his stomach, and the scene had to be res-hot the next day. Brando could play this time with less trouble, but the message was still clear: dirty too. What made the fight worse was that besides the music problems, both men were very angry at each other's skills or lack of them. Sinatra reportedly thought Brando didn't have the voice to lead a musical, while Brando thought Sinatra didn't have the dramatic range to give a lead role depth. Their disdain grew so strong that the two refused to talk to each other directly and instead used middlemen to send messages to each other, despite the tensions in Guys and Dolls didn't rise because the two actors shared little screen time. Only about 3 scenes in the 2.5-hour movie, which helped keep their fight from stopping production. In fact, the movie stayed mostly true to the original Broadway show. Where Sinatra played Nathan Detroit grew a lot, giving him more opportunities. More screen time and 3 brand new songs were added to Nathan's arc, and Sinatra naturally nailed all of them. Brando, on the other hand, his lackluster singing voice made his role as Sky Masterson very interesting. Even though Brando's musical numbers were at best shaky, his acting skills still shone. He danced, he delivered, and he held his own in a movie that was arguably, even though he was out of place, Sinatra still managed to have the last laugh years later. A decade after Guys and Dolls came out, Sinatra recorded a version of Luck Be a Lady. Lady the Showstopper was first performed by Brando, and Sinatra's rendition became one of the most famous in all of his work, a quiet but powerful to show who the real king of the musical stage was, and their fight would never happen again. They didn't see each other very often after that, and some say it was just a clash of styles, some say it was pride, jealousy, and hurt egos, but when Sinatra died, but Brando didn't go to the funeral, it may not have been finished business. It could have been a protest in silence, or it could have been the sound of a rivalry that began with a single roll of cheesecake many years ago. There were 2 men who wouldn't give up. Nancy Reagan and Frank Sinatra was the kind of friend who made people talk about more than just politics. Hollywood, and just the right amount of mystery to make people wonder if they were dating but weren't. They were really close, and things got a little complicated when Sinatra wasn't just he was a real draw for people, and when Reagan decided to run, he was a big deal. Frank was right there with her when she ran for governor of California. He spoke out, raised money, and said Reagan was the best person for the job when Sinatra ran for president again, but this time he had even more on his mind. Flash and power, he didn't just back Reagan, he also helped get people to vote for her. Lucy and Frank got along great. He had charm, swagger, and an edge that she didn't have. Charm, drive, and power, and people noticed how often she called him. Sinatra talked about how she smiled a little bigger when he walked into the room. When he went to the White House more than once, it wasn't just handshakes and small talk, they talked on the phone for hours, ate dinner alone, and took a lot of time to be alone. From cameras, some friends said they felt very at ease with each other, too comfortable. Then there was the book. In 1991, Kitty Kelly wrote a juicy book that said Sinatra and Nancy were more than just friends. It was pure tabloid gold when meetings were stolen, but there was no real proof, just rumors and stories from people who didn't want to be named. Nancy never talked about it. Sinatra, the White House also didn't say anything, but here's the catch. When Frank Reagan didn't even show up for a quick visit at Sinatra's funeral in 1998, when he died. Her thoughts were sent, and she blamed her schedule, but she didn't show up that day. The lack of words said more than what was said. Were they just friends? No matter how they felt, what they said was deep enough to draw attention and privacy, to leave behind questions that no one ever really answered. Woody Allen did not. He had a good reason to go to Frank Sinatra's funeral, so why didn't he? Frank Sinatra was one of the most famous singers of the 20th century. Was emotional, powerful, and smooth, but behind that cool, sure-of-himself singer was a man with a strong sense of duty and honor who cared deeply about the people close to him, especially the ones he loved. He was known for not he would back down when he thought someone had been wronged. Mia Farrow knew this side of Sinatra well. Married Sinatra in the early 1960s and stayed married to him afterward. Even though they got divorced, they stayed close friends. Mia once said Sinatra had a wound. He was tender because his heart was sensitive and easily hurt, and she was the same way. He told them he hated unfair treatment and would get very angry if he thought someone was being treated badly. Sinatra is the one who told one of the most interesting stories from his later years. A story about Hollywood, a famous director named Woody Allen, and a shocking plan to get back at Mia. Beginning in the late 1970s, Farrow and Woody Allen were together for more than 10 years. They were one of Hollywood's most well-known couples. Mia was pretty, smart, and from a well-known family. Woody Allen was a great director and comedian who made movies about as awkward and nervous people. Mia and Woody adopted several children together. Soon Previn and Dylan Farrow were among them. Mia also had a biological son named Ronan. Many people thought it was Woody Allen's child. At first, everything seemed fine, but behind while they were together, things were not easy. Woody Allen was known to have cheated on other women during their time together, but 1992, in the early 1990s, was the wildest surprise. Mia Farrow found out something terrible that Woody Allen had been keeping from her. With Soon even Mia's adopted daughter when she was a lot younger than Allen. This shocked and hurt Mia and the rest of the family. At the same time, serious claims were made that Woody Allen had abused children sexually. These claims about Dylan Farrow, another one of Mia's adopted children, caused a huge stir. There were so many stories and opinions about the scandal that many people took sides. Mia was crushed, she felt betrayed and hurt badly. She needed help, and one Frank Sinatra, an old friend and ex-husband, was the person she turned to. Sinatra had always been Mia's friend and protector, so when she told him what had happened, he was very angry. People who knew Sinatra well say that he wanted to do more than just. Sinatra was known to have long-lasting relationships with powerful and dangerous people with whom he was friends. When Sinatra made connections with mafia members, they gave him extra protection and power. Sinatra was like most famous people. When he found out Woody Allen had betrayed him, he was said to have wanted to use these ties to punish Allen by leaving him unattended while he was still alive. The mafia to get rid of Woody Allen because he was making Mia so upset. Sinatra had a lot of power, but the mafia bosses didn't agree with his plan. They told him no because killing a well-known director like Woody Allen would be wrong. It could get a lot of unwanted attention from the police and cause a lot of trouble for everyone. No matter how bad the fight was, the government and the mafia didn't want to risk their power and safety over a personal one. Sinatra's idea never came to fruition, but the fact that he even thought about it shows how much he loved Mia and how strong his honor and loyalty were. There's one more mysterious part to this story that involves Farrow's son Ronan. Many people have said that Ronan looks a lot like Frank Sinatra, especially with those beautiful blue eyes. Said there was a chance that Ronan was Sinatra's son and not Woody Allen's. This added another level of complexity to the family drama and may have been the reason Sinatra was so protective of Mia and her. Ronald Farrow is now a famous reporter who has written about many important events, but the truth, some people know something secret about his father. But to understand, if you want to understand why Sinatra was so angry, look at Woody Allen's childhood. Because he grew up in a Jewish area of Brooklyn, he was shy and bad with girls. He couldn't get along with other people because his parents had so little to talk about that they sometimes went months without it. Without saying a word, Allen told them he would eat every meal by himself. Being cut off from the outside world when there are no books or music in the house, his mother was moody, funny, and would hit him. This set the stage for the troubled relationships he later had with women. Friends from his childhood think that the emotional stress of that mother-child bond stayed with him for a long time. During his adult dating life, he met his first wife, a sweet little girl. Harleen, a brunette, was his first girlfriend. She was 15 years old and he was 18. Proper girlfriend. When they got married 2 years later, neither of them had ever been married before. Allen's fierce competitiveness showed up even in his marriage, which quickly became strained. Among other small things, he started reading her philosophy textbooks and even hired himself to do the work. His quick rise as a stand-up comedian in the early 1960s made him a teacher of the subject. when he was 24 and started seeing actress Louise Lasser, who was 21 years old. In 1962, he divorced Harleen, but she got almost nothing from their marriage. Allen soon made $250,000 a year after being married for 5 years. What made things worse was that he used mean cartoons of a nagging wife in his work after they had split up. Harleen eventually insisted on his stand-up routines as part of their divorce. Agreement that he would stop making fun of her in public. Even David Evan, for a long time someone who likes Allen, says that people have been too easy on him over the years because of how he has treated women. Evan mostly says this because he's been funny about it, but people don't laugh. Heat up the room. For example, Allen never admitted he hurt people. When she found racy pictures of Suni in his office, Mia Farrow, actually Evanier, says he acts like he doesn't care about the issue, even though he seems shy. As he worked on What's New Pussycat in Paris, Allen was often moved by desire. He became interested in Vicky Teal Allen, one of the costume designers, and even bets were made on who could give her the best birthday present, which Allen did by giving her a pinball machine. Even though she liked both of them, she agreed to keep the bet. But on her birthday night, she broke up with him. Better off for a good-looking stranger Allen met at lunch. Allen was crushed, and she later remembered the event and, true to form, turned it into a scene in Manhattan Inn in 1966. Allen married Lasser while going on 2 stand-up shows in one day. Believes they loved each other, but it was hard because she was depressed and he couldn't connect with her emotionally. After getting married in 1969, Allen was already cheating on his wife with Diane Keaton. Lasser told her she had been cast in his play Play It Again Sam after she had she later said she liked the marriage, but the marriage ended. It's unclear whether she said this out of spite or because she was being honest. It was suggested that Allen, unlike Lasser Jewish, never found Keaton sexually attractive. Allen said Keaton should be short and fit his tastes, but Keaton was tall and all American. He wasn't sexually interested in her very much, Lasser said. Great desire to be sexual, and she did too, but he didn't have one for some reason. The relationship between her and Allen was shaped by Keaton's bulimia. He screamed at her in a restaurant once when she scraped her fork on a plate. It was 3 years before they saw each other again. Ivana says that sexual tension may explain why they were able to work together for so long. Allen met Farrow in Cat Han, who would go on to star in many of his best movies. 1979, she was having dinner with Michael Caine and his wife Shakira Farrow, who was 11 years her junior. From a wealthy family in Hollywood and was known for being tough and driven. Had a history of dating older men, including Yul Brynner and Kirk Douglas. She was already a mother of 6 children, 3 of whom were adopted. Sun E, the daughter of a when Sun Uni was 7 years old, she was adopted by Farrow, who was married to Andre Pven at the time. Through her marriage to Allen Farrow, she had 3 more children, Moses, Dylan, and Satchel. Now known as Ronan, who was thought to be Allen's real child. The end of their relationship came in 1992. Farrow quickly and dramatically found a pile of Allen's office had pornographic Polaroids of Sunan E, who was 19 at the time, with later, Allen would say that Suni had replied to someone with her legs spread wide. Paternal. Whether this was an excuse or another way to deny it made them feel even more betrayed, and some even think he left the pictures out on purpose so they won't get caught, but also as a passive way to avoid confessing in a direct confrontation. The Farrow's reaction was reportedly a volcano. She attacked Sunday. In the weeks that followed, Ye sent Allen hate mail and left him threatening voicemails. Afterward, she even gave him a picture of herself and the kids with hearts pierced by knives and skewers. In the middle of all this emotional chaos, Farrow told Frank Sinatra what they said to him is still unknown, but the timing points to something important. Sinatra had always wanted to protect Farrow, but now her adopted daughter had been lied to by. She may have been betrayed by her partner in a much more personal way as well. Barbra Streisand is a famous singer-songwriter that everyone knows. A movie star and actress whose career has lasted over 60 years. A huge number of impressive awards have been given to Streisand during that time. Among them are the rare awards of an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. She's known for making her own hits, but she's also worked with some of the best singers in the business. Among them were Andrea Bocelli, Celine Dion, and, of course, Frank Sinatra. The most beloved and touching work Streisand did was with the famous American crooner. Their duet came out in Sinatra's Duets album came out in 1993 and got a lot of attention. Duets got great reviews and were a big step forward in his career. Sinatra singing timeless songs with a group of famous often it went on to become his only triple platinum album and Streisand's biggest hit. One of the most interesting things about it is her appearance on the song, I've Got a Crush on You. Streisand had planned to sing the classic by George and Ira Gershwin by himself at first. However, when the chance to sing with the great Sinatra came up, she couldn't refuse. Most of the duets on the separate sessions